Hello, everybody, and welcome to another Fireside Chat. And this is our 80th one, where I'm in conversation with a member of the Order of Bards, Ovates and Druids. Eimear Burke here, and I would like to start, as I usually do, with a prayer for peace. And despite all the prayers, you know, the violence still happens. And I'd just like us to remember all those who are dealing with grief as a result of violence at this time. Gomara Siacán ar fud na crinne, Gomara Siacán in our jaili agus in our jirha. Gunarli lin lan our garmacha, gaumij buicha Steve, jeha quivdaga is spirit quivdaga. May peace prevail on earth. May peace prevail in our homes and in our countries. May our missions be accomplished. We thank you, guardian spirits and guardian deities. And now I'd like to say a prayer by John O'Donoghue. As the fever of day calms towards twilight, may all that is strained in us come to ease. We pray for all who suffered violence today. May an unexpected serenity surprise them. For those who risk their lives each day for peace, may their hearts glimpse providence at the heart of history. That those who make riches from violence and war might hear in their dreams the cries of the lost. That we might see through our fear of each other a new vision to heal our fatal attraction to aggression. That those who enjoy the privilege of peace might not forget their tormented brothers and sisters. That the wolf might lie down with the lamb, that our swords be beaten into plowshares, and no hurt or harm be done anywhere along the holy mountain. So just let me know where you're from. Southeast London, hello Ferdiad. Aberdeenshire, Southwest Wales, lovely to see. Thanks Blake, it's always valuable to strive towards peace and inspire others to do so. From Merrimack Valley of New Hampshire. Greetings from London and from Montreal. Oh, Lloyd, you're up early from New Zealand. That's at Gisborne, New Zealand, lovely. Dreary London, sorry to hear about that, Julia. Actually, it's sunny here. It was raining earlier, but it's nice to have a bit of sunshine for this Fireside Chat. From Los Angeles, Poland, wonderful. Larkspur, Colorado, great. Edinburgh, Athens, Georgia, listening in Arizona, Dallas, hi Dallas, just one at Suffolk, Maastricht, Berkeley, California. May the sword of chaos bring peace from Merlin's magic. Absolutely, Raven. Thank you very, very much. Liverpool, Nebraska, Birmingham. Visiting the Midlands this weekend for Witchfest. I hope, Mrs. Joe, you enjoy the Witchfest. And Winchester, North Cork, you're very, very welcome. So let me introduce you to my guest. We go to Hastings via Derry, and I'd like to introduce to you Paddy Mooney. Paddy, you're so welcome to this Fireside Chat.
Thank you very much, Eimear. Good to see you. And hello, everybody out there. And thanks for joining me. Yeah.
You've got one Ulster viewer. Pat.
Oh, right. Fantastic. Yeah. We might need the subtitles later then. Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about Hastings. I know there was a battle there a while ago, but that's all I know about Hastings.
Yeah. Well, the famous battle, and there's the little town of Battle, which is about 7 miles outside Hastings, where it's reported that a bit of a skirmish happened back in 1066. And then obviously Hastings is an old fishing town, so it goes back centuries. There's the old part of Hastings, which where the actual fishing village is, and the fishermen still fish from the beach. They still launch their boats off the beach into the channel, and it's a thriving little fishing port. And and then you've got the new bit of Hastings, the seafront, the Victorian seafront, and the pier, which has been rebuilt about 10 years ago. And it's basically a traditional English seaside town, right on the channel, sort of between Dover and Brighton. Yeah,
Oh,
just on the edge of the South Downs. So we're really lucky. We've got a beautiful situation here. We've got the sea, we've got the channel, and then we've got the just inland. We've got lots of woodland. We've got the high weald. We've got out towards Fairlight and Dover. We've got the Great Woods out at Battle. So lots of lovely woodland, and so we're really blessed. And the weather is quite mild down here as well. Down in the southeast little corner. But, So from a boy from Derry loves the weather, because although it can rain a little bit over there, so I think that's one of the things that made me stay was the mild weather,
okay.
Yeah.
Benign weather. There's some kind of back. Every time I speak, I'm going to have to. I'm just trying muting you while I'm speaking, but there seems to be some kind of. Do you have another something else on there?
No, nothing
Okay.
else. Nothing
All right.
electrical. No, no.
Okay, it's when I speak. It seems okay at the moment. Anyway, Alan Hoskins, who was a guest, I think last year, who now lives in Ireland, he
All
said
right, lovely.
Hastings was his home. It's his hometown. He left there in 1980, so he asks you to say hello.
Oh, I will. Yeah, I'll go down and throw a pebble in the beach for him. Yeah, there's the old tradition that says if you find a pebble with a hole in it, it means that you'll always come back. Just like a hagstone.
Yes, yeah, yeah.
So there's loads of them on the beach. And that's the old local sort of tradition, the custom. They always say if you find one and you put it in your pocket, you'll always return back to Hastings again. So yeah. So that's a lovely thing. Yeah.
So you said the weather, and I can hear it. So other people are not hearing it. That's good. Um, what brought you from Derry to Hastings?
Oh wow, it's a long story, but I'll give you the short version. Um,
Okay.
well, I lived in a couple of places when I lived in Northern Ireland. I was brought up, obviously, born and brought up in Derry. Went to school there. I lived there until I was about 18, and I went to a place called Portrush, which is down near the Giant's Causeway, which is also a little seaside resort. I went down there to study to be a chef, of all things. I went to catering college down there, and for a couple of years, and I met a lot of local people. I got involved with the local sort of music scene and what was going on down there at the time. It was really great, And the chap I met, Gary, his name was, his mum was from Hastings, and his dad was from Northern Ireland. And unfortunately, they'd split up, but his dad went back to live in Hastings. And I got to know him. And after a few years, I wanted to move over to England for work, basically. And we kept in touch. And he said, "Well, why don't you come over to Hastings and, you know, we can do, find something for you, place to stay. There's plenty of jobs in catering." So that's why I came over, really, because he was my link. Otherwise, it would have been probably London, like a lot of people from Ireland go. But so I was lucky. I came to Hastings. I think I had about £200 in my pocket, and I thought, well, if I don't get a job and if I don't make it within that period of time where the money runs out, I'll have to go back home again. But the very first day we arrived, Gary met me off the train, and he said, "Oh, I've got somewhere for you to stay." And he had a copy of the local free advertiser rolled
Yeah.
up in his hand, and he said, "Right down the Old Town, which is a really nice part of Hastings." And just on the way, we walked past this restaurant, and they had a board outside, like a sandwich board, and it said staff wanted, blah blah blah. So I went in, and the bloke said to me, he said, "Oh, what do you do?" And I said, "Well, cooking whatever you want. I'll work in the kitchen." And he said, "Oh, when can you start?" And he said, I said, well, when do you want me to start? And he said, can you work tonight? And I said, yeah, okay. And this was like about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And he wanted me to start at 7. So then we went down to the place where the room, it was basically a room. And the lady said, oh, I only take people that have got work. And I said, oh, it's all right, I've got the job. So just about 5 minutes earlier, I got this job. And that was 1989. I moved over here in 1989. I got that job. I only stayed in that job for a couple of months, and then I moved on to another job. And yeah, the rest is history. 33 years later, I'm still here, and I think it was just meant to be. I was meant to hook up with Gary. I was meant to come over to Hastings, and I mean, from a spiritual perspective, my sort of spiritual path really started to unfold since I moved to Hastings. Um, and, it's like it was just meant to be. That meeting with Gary and my trip over here, finding the job, being able to stay. The family that I lodged with when I first moved to Hastings were absolutely amazing. They were like my second family, and they looked after me really well. I stayed with them for 6 years until I met Gabriella. We met after I was here about 6 years, and yeah, the rest is history, as they say. And I'm still in touch with some of the family. Sadly, the elder mothers passed away, but I'm still in touch with the kids and with the rest of the family. And we're still good friends, and and it's just amazing how things unfold. And and then again, it's when you walk on a spiritual path, you sort of know when you're on the right track. It just feels right inside, and it just felt right for me to be in Hastings, and it's been really good to me, this place. So yeah. So
I
I
have
called. Hmm?
I have a question.
Yeah.
Hmm. Let's hope this doesn't continue. I think it's when I start. It looks like Pat says it sounds like I'm underwater. What is it about Hastings that has been important for your spirituality?
Well, for me, I don't know. I mean, from a landscape point of view, I think being by the sea, it's very special. That place between the seashore and the sea, and I lived very close to the seashore. Um, in the stony beach, and it's just wild. When it's the weather's sort of windy and the big waves, and you just see the raw of nature. So the actual nature here, I mean, the sea and obviously the land and the woodland and the history as well. It's a very historical place, obviously. And but for me, it all started back in 1989. I was here about a couple of months. I think I was living here a couple of months. And one day I was up in my room. I lived right up at the top of this really old house, which was a bit wonky. And I heard this drumming coming down the road and all these bells and all this noise. And I stuck my head out the window and I thought, I seen all these Morris dancers coming down the road and this big dancing bush. And that was the Hastings Jack and the Green, which is the Beltane traditional festival, which it's turned into. And that was about 4 or 5 years after it started. So it was still quite small. And I looked out the window. I seen the Morris dancers. I seen the music being played and the people drumming and the green men all dressed in their rags and the green faces. And I just thought, I've got to be part of that. I've got to be a part of that. It's something, it's like something inside. It sort of hit something. And I never seen anything like that before. I didn't know anything about Morris dancing or the folk traditions or anything like that. And I followed the procession and got chatting to people. got to know a little bit more about it. And that was the first year that I seen Jack in the Green. And I think after about 2 or 3 years, I actually got involved as a Morris dancer. I joined the local Morris side, and I got involved with the Jack in the Green, and the whole Green Man thing, and got into the mythology, and that was the beginning of the pagan path for me. Um, and yeah, yeah, and I think it's been 30 years. I mean, we've just done one just there at Beltane, and I think that was the 30th year that I've been involved with it. And that was the start of my spark that set me off on the path that I've been on since then, really. And I think before that I was seeking something, but I didn't exactly know what it was that I was looking for. Obviously, being from Ireland, it was, you know, there wasn't much happening over there at all. And I was before the days of the internet and things like that. So unless you knew somebody or somebody, so seeing that and tapping into that was the beginning for me. And yeah, it's been a wonderful journey since then. So I must admit I wasn't a great Morris dancer, but I just enjoyed the energy of it. You know, but
I
yeah,
think I'm sorry about what this is. Is this improving? I think I've seen photographs of you and Gabby
yeah.
greened up. Have I on
Uh,
Facebook?
yeah, I'm sure you have. I mean, we've always put photographs up, and other people have put photographs up. Um, so yeah, yeah. We dress up in all the gear. Over the years, our costumes have developed. Um, yeah, and that's all part of it. It's the disguise. And for me, since I stopped doing the Morris dance, and I became one of we're called the bogies. We're the green men that carry the Jack in the Green, which is the big bush with the crown on top, and we carry it through the streets. And then at the end of the day, the Morris dancers do a dance around the Jack to ceremonially, it's like a slaying of the Jack and releasing the summer. And and we're the guardians of the Jack and the Green. So once a year, we become the Green Man, and it's great, to paint your face and bang a drum and be a bit wild, and it's a real great release, and it's very shamanic, and it's obviously tapping into something that from the past. Obviously the tradition itself. Um, it's sort of, you can trace it back to Victorian times, the actual Jack and the Green tradition, but obviously the Beltane traditions, and go back further and further. So, and with the festival down here, I mean, you get a whole cross match of people. Um, some people are into the dancing and the music and the folk traditions, or you get a lot of pagan people coming down. A lot of people just like it because it's colourful and jolly, and a good excuse to have a drink, So it suits people for whatever whatever they want to take from it. And obviously, a lot of people take a deep spiritual connection from it as well. Obviously, being a Beltane celebration, but this year's energy was amazing because obviously we haven't done it. Physically done it for the last 2 years because of all the COVID restrictions. So this year the crowd was, I mean, I think we had 15,000 people, and the streets were just lined and lined and lined with people, and everybody was smiling and clapping and cheering, and it's just great to be a part of it. And yeah, but I think they do one. There's a Bristol Jack in the Green, and I think there's one in Glastonbury as well. They do like a little festival, so they're starting to spring up. Um, but it's great thing to be involved with, and obviously tapping into the folk tradition and tapping into the mythology around the Jack and the Green and the Green Man. That really, as I say, was something that started off my druid path. Yeah.
Could you turn your speaker down? I was hearing
Yeah, I did. Is that better?
Yeah, I think so. It is. Yeah, you can. I'm speaking now, so it's not. Can you hear me?
I can hear you okay. Yeah, I think it's because I turned mine up
That's
full.
right. So it's feedback because when we did the
Okay,
sound check
feedback.
beforehand, it was fine.
Yeah.
Um,
Is that
Owen the
better?
Vardoon, that's perfect. So Owen the Vardoon has said, I'm sure there are other group spaces, but might be of interest to viewers. He's put up morrisfed.org.uk
Oh
for
yeah.
Morris dancing. Do
Yeah.
you, so I does so, yes, Philip, that's my mistake. I didn't mean to put that up. It sounds fun. There's just two questions I have is can you just tell us a little bit about where Jack and the Green came from? You're saying it's Victorian, but obviously the Bealtaine ceremony goes way, 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 way back.
Yeah.
But how, what was it about Victorian times that, what was the hook for them that they took to Jack and the Green?
Well, I think in Victorian times, people got really interested in mythology and the old ways, and there was a chap called Cecil Sharp who went round and collected a lot of folk dances, and a lot of the Morris sides. I mean, that was the original um, book that he wrote that spawned a lot of the Morris sides. And a lot of the Morris sides, obviously then people collected local dances and started to make up their own. But the Victorians were really interested in this folk tradition and obviously the mythology side of it. And, I suppose the wheel of the year. And it was actually the sweeps that took the Jack and the Green idea and this idea of a May garland. So it started basically as a garland, maybe like a hoop covered in flowers, or maybe like a garland you can wear in your hair. And it got bigger and bigger as each village or each town or each area of a town would compete with each other to have the best garland. And these garlands got bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger until they basically covered the whole person. And it was the sweeps that would go out. And basically, that's where a lot of the black faces that you
Yeah.
used to see the Morris dancers would wear the black faces. It would be like a form of disguise. And the sweeps would go out on the May bank holiday because that would be a day off for them. And they would all get rip roaring drunk and they would beg for money, basically. They would dance and sing and parade down the road. And this would be, the beginnings of, I suppose, the Jack and the Green Festival as we know it. And
Mhm.
obviously then in the 60s and 70s, it was taken over a lot by the Morris dancers. There was a big Morris revival in the late 60s and early 70s. But I suppose before that, I mean, it goes back to Beltane festivals and um, the festivals that people used to have on the land. The first blossom, the May blossoms festivals. People used to go out and rejoice for the return of the growing season and the good weather, and it would be a time of the year where people would you know go out and celebrate and look forward to a good harvest. And I suppose the with the Green Man, obviously that goes way back in mythology and tradition. The guardian of the woods,
Mhm.
the guardian of the trees, um, and that would be a person that you would want to, keep on your side. If you wanted um, a good harvest, and
Mhm.
if obviously you needed to look after the trees, and especially the May blossom and the hawthorn. And obviously the farmers would take great care and not to cut the certain bushes down, especially the hawthorn. And yeah, so the tradition, as we know it, is like a this Victorian revival. But obviously, lots of pagans and lots of druids know that it goes back hundreds, if not thousands of years, to what we call Beltane now. But obviously in past times, it would have been a celebration of the fertility of the earth, and obviously you've got films like The Wicker Man and, that portray a lot of that, but yeah. So, and obviously a lot of people that are interested in folk traditions and especially Morris traditions are pagan as well. And so they bring in what they know. And what's nice about it is a lot of it is local as well. I mean, I think the Jack and the Green can be traced back to the Victorian times in Hastings. It used to happen, and then it died out in the sort of early 1900s, and then it was revived in the early 80s by a local couple. They started it back up again, and it's become this really great festival. Really, there's a whole weekend of dancing and music and just coming together of like-minded people. So yeah. So
Wonderful.
I can't remember the question now.
Wonderful question. You've answered it.
Yeah.
Do you do any other festivals in addition to Bealtaine with your group, or is it just the Jack and the Green one? Do you do any others around the wheel of the year?
Not with that group in particular, but I mean that when I was part of the Morris side, I mean I haven't done the Morris dancing for about 15 years, but I'm still involved. I mean we do like a mummers play. We used to do a mummers play around Christmas and New Year, which is a traditional play around death and rebirth, which you do find in lots of places around the country and in Ireland as well. I remember my dad talking about the mummers going around, or the rhymers they used to call them, I think, in parts of Ireland.
And the
So we used
Boys.
to do that. That was good fun. And then we would get involved with like a wassail around sort of end of January, beginning of February. So we wassail apple trees, and that would be something around the wheel of the year we would get involved in. And there's a big bonfire tradition in Sussex as well. It's probably one of the few places in England that does it. All around Guy Fawkes, and there's like bonfire societies that put on, they go walk through the streets with flaming torches, and they have drummers, and it's like a Beltane thing, but it's all around, the Guy Fawkes story. But a lot of pagan people and come along because they see it as a tapping into that Beltane energy, and
it's also
sorry.
The feedback is still there. I don't know what to do about it.
Want me to turn it down a bit?
Yeah, again, it's also around Samhain. So Samhain in Ireland is the whole month of November.
Yeah.
So Guy Fawkes is what, the 5th of November?
Yeah. The bonfire season starts around about sort of October. So because they try to do, each society tried to do their bonfire in a weekend where nobody else is doing one. So, and they go to each other's. So that there's about 6 or 7 weeks where there's bonfires on, and they all go to each other's fireworks displays and try to outdo each other with the best fireworks. And it's amazing. I mean, for me now as a Druid, as a pagan, it's a real tapping into the Beltane energy, So and it's an amazing thing. I think they do things in Scotland similar, don't they? They do Beltane celebrations in Edinburgh, where they roll the barrels down the road and flaming barrels and stuff like that. So yeah. But I mean, we're really lucky here because in Hastings there's so many little festivals that happen. And they do festivals of the sea as well, which is very much around the wheel of the year. We got a herring festival. and different fish festivals throughout the year, which obviously being a fishing town, the fishermen like to celebrate their heritage, and obviously it brings a lot of people into town as well. So so the seasonal cycle is very much evident here with different festivals, and which is great, and there's a few years ago they started up a frost fair, which happens coming up to sort of Samhain time as well. They do this frost fair, and everybody dresses up in white frosty sort of costumes, and they have music and dancing, and there's a lot of artists come out. They have a big market, storytellers, and it just gets the community out. And so we're really lucky here, because there's a very big artist community and a very big music community as well. So I'm really selling it. Everybody want to come to Hastings now.
You certainly are, and it's just lovely that people from all traditions can come. That somehow about celebrating the Wheel of the Year, regardless of whatever spiritual tradition, whether or not. So you're talking about storytelling, you're talking about artists, and so many others.
Yeah.
This Wheel of the Year, and because how in tune it is with the landscape.
Yeah.
The fishing, etc. How it brings people together. It's absolutely wonderful.
Yeah, it really brings people together, and everybody forgets, their day-to-day stuff, and they just enjoy the moment, which is great as well, because that's really important. And over the years, we've seen, people would come up to us and say, what's Jack in the Green about? What's a bogey? What's the Green Man? And it's sort of, people come along asking questions, so we can, some of us we'd signpost people to, different websites, or, different books to read, so I think a lot of people that were seekers, a bit like me, back in 1989, they're still coming along, and those people are still being drawn by, a couple of the festivals, especially the Jack and the Green and the Beltane Festival, and it's really, it brings people in that are seeking, on their path. So it's really it's a real privilege to be able to signpost people, to help them on their way, or to say, well, come and join us, come and be a part of it.
Jules' cousin has a question. I wonder if there's any connection with Viking Fire Festival, as it is in Scotland.
Yeah, I'm sure there is a connection. Because all these festivals, the Viking Fire Festivals, I think they're around about Samhain time, I think. So I'm sure, that energy, inspires older people to go off and do their own thing, But I think this idea of lighting a bonfire is a real primal thing, lighting a fire to cook on, or lighting a fire to protect yourself, or lighting a beacon, to show people where you are. So this thing about lighting a bonfire, and obviously this idea of burning away the old, casting all the things that you want to get rid of into the fire, and making way for the new. So and obviously all the different festivals, the Viking festivals, and obviously the bonfire festivals that we have, and all the things that people would have, even in your back garden. I think it's tapping into that primal consciousness of, lighting a fire, putting sticks down, and kindling, and making a fire, because it's one of the basic human needs, is to have a fire to protect yourself, to cook on, to warm and to heat yourself, so people gather around, and it draws people in.
Do you know the origin of bonfire?
Well, I mean, the bonfire that happens down here, it's this celebration of, Guy Fawkes was caught trying to blow up the House of Parliament, so they basically had started the celebration every year to say, yeah, we caught him, and we burnt him, and it's like, I suppose it's a bit political, really. And that tradition's obviously been going, alongside people who come for the Beltane and the fire festival element of it. And but I think the traditions of our festivals down here are the Guy Fawkes thing, but
Okay.
yeah.
The reason I asked you, I was talking about the word bonfire. The Irish for bonfire is Chinnacnova, which means a
Uh-huh.
bone. It means a bone fire.
Yeah. Yeah.
And my grandfather used to always call it a bonfire, which drove me crazy as a child. I said, no, it's not. It's a bonfire. And he'd say, it's a bonfire. Of course,
Yeah.
that's what it is in Irish, which would have been burning maybe the bones of animals or maybe the bones of our ancestors.
Yeah. 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 I mean, it has these ancient um, you know, traditions. I mean, it goes back so far. And obviously, the more you look into it, the more you delve into it, the more you realize you can trace it back thousands of years. Like as you say, um, you know, burning, burning the remnants of the crops um, at harvest time, or burning up the bones of the animals. Yeah, yeah. So, and I think really a lot of people tap into that when they come along. They really feel that energy, and yeah. So, yeah, it's good to be involved with that. Yeah,
You don't have headphones.
yeah, yeah,
Would you try them? I think that might help.
yeah. Let me just grab them. Whoop. Hang on.
Apologies for this. I think it's because we're on air. We're live,
All
and there
right.
may be just a slight delay between us, and
Okay.
that's why there's the interference. Ferdy, it says it does come from bonfire, but Dr. Johnson misheard and thought it was the French bonfire. Yes, thanks for
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. Let me
And
just.
Jules is talking about the purifying fire that East Sussex has fantastic local village fire festivals. That's
Oh
that
yeah.
purifying fire. It's lovely.
Hang on. I think.
And then Anne says, candles are a lovely part of so many of our rituals too. Absolutely. And I think it's so important, Anne, is that even a small flame is so powerful. And I think so. Funny, when we were setting up earlier, Paddy was trying to get so we could see we could see his candle, and I have a candle lighting there. You can't see it, but it's just so lovely to have that.
Right. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, yes, and there's no interference.
Yay. I look like I'm going to take off. Okay, everybody, your flight will, where do you want to go?
So
Yeah.
what is it? How did you get to Druidry then from all of this?
Right. Okay. Okay. Well, basically, I got interested in, first of all, I mean, the whole spiritual thing was really started for me around that when I seen Jack and the Green and got into the Morris traditions and the folk traditions of this country. But I got really interested in Native American traditions. And there was a little New Age sort of bookshop down in Hastings. And I picked up a couple of books on, I suppose, contemporary Native American shamanism. Kenneth Meadows, books, and Leah Rutherford, and I think I picked up a pack of medicine cards, which are like the divination cards, with a Native American theme. And I think the first few years, the Native American tradition really was something that I read around a lot. And I actually was lucky enough to meet a native person in Hastings who was on like a speaking tour. And he invited me over to Idaho, where he was living. And myself and Gabriella, my partner, my wife, we went over and we spent some time with him. And we really spent a few years interested in that. I suppose it was called Native American shamanism. But obviously a lot of it was around the Wheel of the Year, the medicine wheel, the traditions with the animals and the ancestors. So it was all very similar to what I would later discover in Druidry. We met a local lady here in Hastings who ran a group, and we spent a few years sitting with her and learning about the medicine wheel traditions and shamanic journey, and just drumming and chanting and meditation and healing, and obviously just looking at yourself and working on yourself, and working with the plants and the animals. And so what she was doing was more like a Celtic shamanic path, which had a lot of Native American practice in it as well. So it was quite new age, and that was very big at the time. And so I did that for 4 or 5 years, and then I discovered a pagan group in Eastbourne, which is along the coast, about 15 miles from where we are. There was a shop that opened, a pagan guy that opened a shop that sold books and all sorts, candles and incense. And downstairs he had a little space where he used to put on talks, and he would invite various people in to do talks. So I got very involved with going over there and meeting people, and I started to buy Pagan Dawn magazine, which was the Pagan Federation magazine, and started going to some of their events as well up in London. So that was about 89 to about 95, 96. And then we went to America again. And when I was sitting in America, we went to Sweat Lodge, and coming out of the Sweat Lodge, and the Native American guy said to me, he goes, "Hey man, you're from Ireland. You've got so many great traditions over there. Why don't you spend some time really looking at what you've got on your doorstep? You don't have to travel all this way." He wasn't being horrible. He was just sort of saying, you should look at what you've got. Obviously, be inspired by our traditions, but discover your own traditions as well. And I thought, yeah, I should really do that. And I had been doing that for a little bit through linking with the pagan group. It was mostly like a Wiccan group. So I started going to their open rituals. So that's when, I started doing the Wheel of the Year rituals with them. And I started my own little group, which was, I suppose, like a Wheel of the Year. I called it the Shamanic Group. And it was like a group where we would come together, celebrate the season, and we would talk, we would meditate, we would drum a journey, and then we would share some food at the end. So it wasn't a ritual as such, but it had a little format. And I ran that group right up until lockdown, and so 25 years or something like that, the group ran for. And there's a lady who came along to that group who said to me he said, "Oh, there's Druids over in Lewis." And
I wonder
there's
who they were.
Druids, And so I was just, as soon as she said the word Druids, I thought, blimey, I've got to investigate. And then I heard about Philip Cargom, and this was sort of early internet sort of days, and so I got to hear about OBOD, and then I got to hear about an open rituals that they were doing at the Longman of Wilmington, which is just the other side of Eastbourne, on the South Downs, near Lewis. And so we went to investigate, and we met Dave and Kerry, Dave the Bard and Kerry, and they were just so inviting and so welcoming and so just real themselves, and we were just taken by it all. This is about 90, 97, 98, 99. And yeah, so then I heard about the course. I heard about the OBOD course, and straight away I signed up to that. And yeah, so that was my introduction to Druidry and to OBOD. And obviously, we've been going pretty regularly to the rituals at the Longman since then. And yeah, wonderful they are too. If you're ever in the area, it's worth a look in, Yeah. So that was my introduction really to Druidry. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
Stephanie Kelly wants to know where in Idaho. I imagine Stephanie's from.
Right. Where in Idaho? It was, we flew into Spokane. It was just, Gabby will remember where it was, but she's not here. It wasn't far from Spokane, because we went, we drove up into Canada then. We drove up into British Columbia, which wasn't that far, but it was, but it was right out in the middle of nowhere. We stayed there for a couple of weeks, and then we went up into Canada, to a place called Nelson, which is in British Columbia. That was our first and second visits over to the States. Then probably about 95, we met another Native American elder and his wife. They were on a tour in England as well, and we linked up with them, and we still, we went over to see them a few times, and they were. It was a chap called Bob Nietzsche, and he is grandmother Twyla's son. So she's quite a well-known, respected Native American elder of the Seneca Nation. So we did a lot of workshops, and we went over and did a lot of their medicine wheel dances over in that was over in Utah.
Okay.
We went over there a couple of times into the deserts in Utah, and we'd spend a week out in the desert building a medicine wheel and doing a dance. And then, coming off from that and maybe, canoeing down a river for a week. And it was just amazing experience. And so all this time, the spiritual growth was happening, and it was just through meeting people, being invited to things, happening upon things. It was all very hands-on. I mean, I must admit, my spiritual growth for the last sort of 30 years has been a very hands-on, practical thing. I do read books, and I do sort of watch things on the internet and that, but really it's for me, it's about getting out there and doing it. Whether it's going to the gathering in Glastonbury, the OBOD gathering, or going out to ritual at the Long Man, or doing the group that I do, or going to other people's ceremonies, or talks, or events, or festivals. It's been a real sort of doing path. Yes, but I've just been really lucky to meet some really great people, and it's really been an amazing experience. Yeah. So
you're very busy with all of these outward things. Do you have a daily practice?
Yeah. I do have a daily practice. I mean, if I'm working, it's a very quick daily practice.
Yeah.
But I do like a little ceremony in the morning, greeting the new day.
Yeah.
So just basically honoring the directions, the above, below, the within. Saying, honoring my ancestors, sending prayers out for friends and family, and obviously for myself, asking for a good day. So it's just like a little morning prayer, and obviously a little bit practical of honoring the directions. And if I'm off work, I would light a candle, or maybe light a little bit of sage or a little bit of incense, and going into the inner grove, sitting down with my spirit guides and helpers, and so it could be anything from a 5-minute quick sort of hello to a 15 or 20-minute if I'm on a day off. But I think it's really important to have that connection, even if it's only a few minutes on the way to work. For me personally, it really sets me up for the day, and it sort of keeps me aligned, within all of the madness that can go on within a day.
Yeah. No, I so understand that. So that you're no longer a chef.
No.
So what got you to leave chefing?
Well,
and it's where you went to. So
well, basically, I think I did the chefing jobs for probably a few years after I moved over here, and then I mean, it's not. I mean, if you have to really love that sort of work, and I wasn't loving it. It didn't make my heart sing. It was just a way of making money, and obviously, you're working most evenings, most weekends, bank holidays, and when you're sort of in your early 20s, you want to go out on a Friday night, you want to go out on a Saturday night, and it just got to the point where I thought, I'm just working all the time, but I'm still broke, because it doesn't pay very well, and I wasn't learning any new skills. I was just doing the same old. It's not like now where chefs can really, do really well. I was just sort of treading water. So when I met Gabriella, a lot of her family were nurses, were in the medical field, and her brother said to me, I was sort of in between jobs, and he said, "Oh, have you ever considered, getting into nursing?" And I said, "Yeah, never really thought about it, but yeah, And he said, "Well, why don't you look into it? Because it'll be a really good thing to, you know, to do." He loved his job as a nurse. So he really sold it to me, and I went up to the local hospital. I mean, these were the days before the internet, really, and I I got a job in washing the instruments for the operating theatres. You prepare all the So that got me in basically. And then after a year, I got a job in the operating theatres as a nursing auxiliary. And then
Okay.
after about another year and a half, I was lucky enough to get into a training course to train as a theatre practitioner. So I trained.
And that was on the hoof. That what you didn't need to go to university. That was
That
trained.
was at that time. It was a university course, but it was sort of like it was more like you did like a few weeks in the job, and then you'd done a couple of weeks of college.
Okay.
It's a more formal course now, but at that time it was more like an apprenticeship. But
Great.
you did go and have like formal lectures, and you had to produce essays and different types of work. But obviously, a lot of it was just learning how to do the job as
Mhm.
well. So it's a bit like nursing training, but it was more specialist. It was just working in the operating theatre.
Great.
So I was lucky to get into that. I did that and I qualified, and I stayed in the NHS then after I qualified for another 12 years. Um, and I'm still doing that job now, but I work in a private hospital now.
So you're
Um,
assisting in certain operations. You're assisting the surgeon.
yeah. What I do mainly, I've trained to do like everything in theatre, sort of scrub recovery and anaesthetics, but I do mostly anaesthetics and recovery, so helping
Okay.
the anaesthetist to put the patients to sleep.
I remember
Um,
that as a student
yeah,
nurse doing it.
yeah. So
Yeah.
I'm like we're called ODPs, so operating department practitioners, and then obviously we work in the recovery area as well. So when people come around from their operations, we look after them until
Yeah.
they can go back to the ward. So obviously, so yeah, I mean, and that sort of went hand in hand with the druidry for me, because I felt that I was really given something of myself, and it was it was my it was like a vocation really. And so as I was developing my spiritual side, along came this caring job, and I was looking after people, and people that were coming down for their ups and who were really afraid, you know,
Mhm.
and so you learn. I mean, I learned a lot of skills on how to be calm and how to
Yeah.
relax people, and obviously doing the meditation group and working with the shamanic journey, and that all really came in handy. And obviously working with spiritual practice as well in that environment, it can be quite heavy.
Mhm.
So obviously working with things like spiritual protection and cleansing and things like that. So I think when you're linked on that level, you can give a really broad um, um, service to people,
Mhm.
not just on a practical level, but obviously on other levels as well. They're being looked after. So I always remember when friends were coming into hospital, they'd always say, "Oh, make sure you're working that day. Make sure you're in." So and I'd say, "Don't worry, we'll look after you." So, but
I,
yeah,
it's really crucial because I worked in theatre and
yeah,
as a nurse, and the importance of having a caring person who really sees you and understands, and you're not
mhm,
just the liver that needs to be removed or whatever the organ is, but that actually it's a human being. And that
exactly.
point of contact, that interface is
Yeah,
so important. And of
it
course, it'll
is.
have a huge impact on the person's
Yeah,
healing afterwards when they meet some warm, kind-hearted person who is
yeah,
skilled and also compassionate. I think it's
yeah,
so important. And I suppose that's, Druidry being of service, it's so important.
yeah,
It's great that you've
yeah.
been able to do that and to link that in and bring the two together.
Exactly. And I've it's been a real privilege to be able to do that and to use my druidry, and in that way, and so and obviously being a sort of practical sort of person, it just comes as second nature, and I think, as you say, the patients hopefully benefit. And I have bumped into people in the street, and they're saying, "Oh, you're the person who looked after
Oh,
me," and
yeah.
they
Wow.
meet you like an old friend, and it's great, So it's like any job. Some days you just think, "Oh God, I'm going to go to work today," but when you're there and when you're looking after people, it's like it's a real honor and a privilege to be able to do that and help people in maybe one of their most vulnerable times.
Hmm.
So yeah. So it's a real spiritual calling, I suppose.
Yeah, there's
To be of
Anne
service.
Beer, who's in Montreal. So grateful to all nurses, having had several major operations and watching skilled nurses work with our premature baby in
Yeah,
intensive care for 3 months. Wow. Yes,
yeah,
skill and
yeah,
compassion combined. Thank you both so much. Yeah. Thanks for
yeah,
sharing that, Anne. That must have been
yeah,
nerve-wracking. Premature baby in intensive care for 3 months.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. This is it. I mean, and that's when that sort of connection on other levels comes into play, because even though you don't say it, it's like you're there for the people, and like you're a whole person. You're not just doing your job. You're
that's right.
really with the people, and yeah, I think people really appreciate that. So
You
yeah,
mentioned the word vocation, and it's a funny thing because uh, I went to a Catholic school, and there was
yeah,
the nun, who's going to be a nun, and do you have a vocation? And when you
yeah,
get the call, and you can't ignore it because you're going to have to answer the call. So I didn't have
yeah.
any call to religious life,
No,
nor did I have. I kind of drifted into nursing, and then I left because of the level of responsibility, and then I became a psychologist, and then I discovered Druidry, but I didn't have a calling from way, 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 way back. And it's interesting how I never thought I was going to be in this position that I'm in now within the order.
yeah,
That wasn't a calling either. And I'm a priestess in the Fellowship of Isis. Again, that happened fortuitously. And
yeah,
it's really, really,
yeah,
your brother-in-law is saying, have you thought about nursing? And it's such a jump from chefing and being in that line of work
yeah.
into nursing. And yet somehow you met him at the right time to be
Exactly.
to
Yeah,
take you down that. And it's like, this is the magic of meeting people along our life or through our life that
yeah, yeah.
not part of the plan, but I suppose
No,
it's that being open to whatever comes your way. I know there are people who set their goals and know from the time they're 5, I'm going to
yeah,
be I can see a straight road. Mine was
yeah,
very twisty.
yeah.
And
Same
um,
here. Yeah, yeah,
just to have that, to be able to be open up. And it's interesting when you use the word vocation, it's like a later vocation. Of course, there's late vocations. They talk about that too, that
yeah,
something comes in that you haven't heard it before, or maybe that you weren't being called in, that you needed to do your chefing first.
yeah,
Because
yeah,
I know my nursing training, which was very difficult, it my it was excellent in terms of patient care, but in terms of building me up as a person, not particularly.
yeah,
Um, but it laid the ground for so many other things that when I started doing healing or seeing clients, I already
exactly.
had those people skills,
Yeah,
dealing with people in pain, dealing with people who are dying. That has
exactly.
actually, provided a good basis for other stuff. So each time you, whatever job you do,
Yeah,
regardless of what it is, that it's a building block for
exactly.
other work down the
Exactly.
line.
For the
Yeah.
next one. Yeah. It reminds me of that. Have you ever seen that TV program, Quantum Leap? It used to be on in the
No.
80s. This guy who used to go into a different sort of body every week, and he wouldn't remember where he's come from, but he would just sort of land in this sort of person, and he would play out some sort of something that's going on for them, and then something that have to be resolved, and then the whole program would be about how he works things out, and then once things are worked out, he would jump to the next. But sometimes I've seen the way that my life's developed has been a little bit like that. And it's like I've been helped along the way by these people,
That's right.
that have signposted me for another,
That's right.
use the word again. But I mean, going away back, I think the chef thing came out of my mum died when I was 16, and me and my sister very quickly went from the people in the house that were looked after by my mother to the people who would have to look after ourselves. So very quickly, I had to learn how to cook and to clean and how to look after the house and to do the shopping, because my dad was out at work and he didn't have time to do all of that. And then when I left school, I naturally went and learned to do catering and work as a chef, because I already had some of the skills.
Mhm.
And I thought I would make a career out of this. But it was sort of born out of necessity, really. And obviously then people I've met throughout my life has taken me in a different direction. I'll just tell you, actually, because when in 2007, I'd been in the NHS for about 12 years, and a friend of ours went to live in a Camp Hill community, like a Steiner community. So
Okay,
the
something
next
happened there.
the next step came along.
You're
Did we
going and
freeze?
I'm going. Can people hear us? My internet, for some reason, has gone down. I don't- Okay, I'm just going to try my phone. Can everybody hear us? Yeah, you can hear me. Okay, we can't
I
hear
can hear
Paddy.
you.
Paddy, are you okay? Okay, can still hear me. Okay,
Can you
can
hear
you
me?
just repeat that? Can you repeat what you were saying?
All right. Okay. I was just going to tell you about sort of, these little happenings that came along throughout my life, like, meeting the chap when I moved over to Hastings,
Yes.
meeting Gabby's brother who signposted me to the working in the hospital.
Mhm.
And then in 2007, we met a good friend who we'd known for years, who had just moved to a Camp Hill community in Wales, which is one of these Steiner
Mhm. Yeah.
based communities, looking after special needs adults in a residential setting. And that was Gabriella's experience. She worked in special needs schools.
Okay.
And we decided in a moment of madness that we were going to move to Wales and go and live in this Camp Hill community. So I was lucky, and it's just amazing how things flow. I got a sabbatical from my job. They let me have a year off with the option of going back after the year. And off we went to Wales to live in this Steiner community. And this is around about the time where I was, really starting to get into the Druid tradition.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was just on the edge of the Brecon Beacons. And we stayed there. We ended up staying there for 2 years. And obviously tapping into that Steiner spirituality, that
Mm-hmm.
tradition. And that linked with being in Wales, I just started the Bardic grade not that long before. So, working with the Bardic grade in Wales and having the time to be out in this beautiful farmland where we were set. It was just one of, just another aspect of this synchronicity that seems to have followed me along the path. And we spent a lovely couple of years there, and we gathered more skills as managers of special needs residential care. So I actually came back to Hastings, and I got a job managing a care home for a couple of years before I went back into healthcare again. So it was another string to my bow, but it was sort of meant to be. I was meant to go to Wales and immerse myself in, the whole Taliesin story and
The landscape,
the landscape and the bardic grades. And, I remember I'd only been there a few months, and we went to this craft fair, and this lady was selling these prints, these lovely prints of the Cerridwen story, where the chase in the story, where Gwion changed into the different animals, and it's a really amazing print that I put up on the wall. I still got it by my front door, and that's sort of really got me fired up to get through the bardic grade, because I'd spent a couple of years sort of going through it, and then I stopped for a little while, like people do, and then I picked it back up, and I thought, right, I'm going to finish this. And when I came back from Wales, not long after that, I moved into the OBOD grade, and I managed to, really move forward with it, because I think, I'm speaking to a lot of people over the years. A lot of people find it difficult, sometimes to move through the course, and they do have periods where they get a little bit stuck with it all, and they put it to one side, and sometimes they just need that little bit of inspiration or a conversation or a happening to get people to get moving again. And so I usually tell people that story about me going off to Wales and how it helped me through the bardic grade.
That's secure.
And I hope it inspires people to keep going, because I think if you're on the path of spirit, then you're on the path and you're going to be helped. But sometimes you have to ask, sometimes you have to do your morning practice and say, I need some help today,
That's so true, Paddy. There's no rush. And I think sometimes people give themselves a hard time and they say, I've started the bardic grade 3 times and I'm so bad and I left it because this, that, and that. And it's like, well, it took me 7 years, and that was the right length of time. So that it's around allowing the journey to unfold, because there is no rush. Ferdiad, he said something earlier. Maybe for some of us, it's more like a seed growing. We're talking about vocations and blossoming and bearing fruit when the conditions are finally right, rather than a clarion call. Seedlings seem an apposite image for druids, and I think that Ferdiad made that comment earlier about your call to nursing. But I do think our journey through the grades is like that. Its seeds are sown. It doesn't have to happen in 1 year. Maybe there are a number of cycles. So like if you're developing a garden, you may not get a good harvest in the first year. You may need to work it many, many years before you get the fruit that you want. And I think the journey through the course is the same. And here it's like there's no judgment. You just take the time you need. And I think that's so important, to be able to for people to have compassion for themselves and not giving themselves a hard time. I don't know, that there's Julia Foyle says, I need to go somewhere to give me a kick up the backside with the OBOD grade. I've been stalled for 2 years now. That's not long, Julia.
Oh, that's not long. Yeah. Well, you can always come to Hastings and get some inspiration.
He'll kick you to Wales, and then that'll sort you. Or you can look at his picture inside his door. And David says, I've been off and on the bardic grade for the last 6 or 7 years. So be it. There are many members who are excellent druids, do great work as druids, who are still on the bardic grade.
Exactly.
It's not to discourage you from going through it, but it's about having compassion. And, we all have lives and we all have life events that we have to deal with.
Yep.
And it's not, and luckily it's not like a university course where, you know, you have
No.
exams, you have to do everything out if you haven't finished in a year. This is
Yeah.
something you live, and that it
Exactly.
evolves in its own
Exactly.
time.
Yeah. It's about living it, really. I mean, and I think really, I think I started the Bardic grade in about 99, and I finished the Druid grade in 2018,
Okay,
something like that. So it took about
9 years. No,
19,
more.
19
19.
years.
Oh, that's
19 years.
exactly.
Yeah. So
That's what
yeah.
that's the magic number of the traditional druids in the past. It took
Well,
19 years.
exactly. I mean, I wasn't really that worried about finishing it. I just thought I was enjoying the journey, you know. But then it got to the point where I thought I can finish this, and then I can go back to the start. And
Mhm.
it's like a wheel of the year. You can just keep going round and round and round. And as you say, some people, you know, do the Bardic grade and they think, yeah, I'm happy with that. I'm going to stay here. And I think it's a very personal thing, and that's what I love about the
Yeah.
course. And it's such a personal thing, and everybody takes what they need or gets what they need. And you know, it's about bringing those lessons and bringing what you learn into your everyday life. It's
Mhm.
not about learning a load of stuff and to carry around in your head. It's about actually living it. It's about living the tradition. And whether that's your work or whether that's, you know, if you're a musician or a poet or an artist or however you express yourself, you know, or bringing up a family or looking after people, it's how you use your vocation in life. And
Mhm.
yeah, yeah. So yeah, it's been a wonderful journey, and long may it continue. Yeah,
Yeah, it doesn't end. And I mean, so many of my guests who've maybe some who've um, finished all three have gone back
yeah,
to the Bardic grade again and
yeah,
through it. And
yeah,
like Dave the Bard, you know, he went through all three grades and he said, I am a
yeah,
bard. And that's where his gift is.
yeah.
And yeah, so many people have done them a few times, you know, and that's
Mm.
that's right for them. So
Exactly,
definitely,
exactly.
I look forward to spending the next 19 years going through the courses. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I didn't plan it to be 19 years. It just happened that way. But I must admit, it hasn't been. It wasn't like a stressful thing. Like, oh, I must get it finished. I really enjoyed the journey. It's a bit
Yeah.
like when you go on holiday. You really enjoy the journey because you're going somewhere, and then you know you get to this place and you think, wow, I'm just going to spend some time here,
That's
and
right.
then you might think, I'll go on another journey. And every time you dip into the Gwerse and dip into the course, you'll find something else. You know, you'll find another little nugget, or it'll take you off in a different direction. But what I really enjoy is just talking to people about it. And you know, we had a little seed group here for a while in
Mhm.
Hastings, and I really enjoyed, you know, just helping the other the people who came along, you know, and you know, just saying, you know, don't give up. It's, you know, this is natural what you're feeling, and talking to people about, you know, a bit like being a tutor, but not being a tutor. But
Yeah.
you know, just giving the people a little bit of encouragement. And yeah, yeah, that's what I really enjoy. And yeah, so I would say to anybody who was, you know, thinking about oh, this has taken whatever, how many, you know, it just takes as long as it takes. Yeah,
Pat says, I'm too lazy to move on from the Bardic until I get bored with it. 8 years and still not bored. Well, that's what it is.
yeah,
And
yeah.
Linda
That's just
Jones from Linda's in Australia. I loved the Bardic grade, but didn't feel like a bard. Now I'm in the Ovid grade. I tell a story every day for my job. Linda, I was the same. My big struggle in the Bardic grade was I was doing all Oveti stuff. You know, I'm a herbalist. I do Reiki. I do shamanic training, all that kind of
yeah,
stuff.
yeah,
And I'm not a poet. I'm not a poet. Howard was a poet. You know, he could just spit out poetry while he's making bread. He could be writing stuff. I can't do this. And it wasn't until I had finished my Bardic Review after year 7 that I actually started telling stories. And then I took up the harp in my OBOD grade. It's not straightforward. It goes round, to me, like it was like a triple spiral, in and out, in and out, in and out. And
it is. And you never know what's going to come up next, you know, what little curveball you're going to be throwing, you know. But
exactly.
that reminds me, because when I started the Bardic grade, I thought I'm going to have to learn to play something. I'm going to have to, you know, I'm not a storyteller, and I was thinking, what's going to be my Bardic gift? You know, and I put lots of thought into this, and I used to play drums in a band years ago when I was younger, and I really love music, and I just thought I've always wanted to learn guitar, and I thought, right, I'm going to go off and learn properly learn guitar, but I ended up playing bass guitar, and I ended up going and doing like a proper structured course and working through the grades and doing all the theory and everything. And that was, I felt sort of then that was my Bardic gift. I ended up joining a band and playing around the pubs in Hastings, inflicting loud music on people was my Bardic gift.
Much appreciated, no doubt.
It was, yeah. But obviously that's developed over the years, and obviously now I play with ceilidh bands and sort of more traditional bands, but I still love all the old.
What do you play? What in a ceilidh band? What are you playing? You're not playing guitar, are you?
I play bass, yeah, because we've got
10. A bass in a ceilidh band.
Yeah, there's 10 of us. Yeah. Well, we're sort
of. Well,
we
wouldn't have that at home. Wouldn't have that here. None of that.
No, it's not traditional. But we got drums, bass. And then we got all the traditional instruments. We got a fiddle player, melodeon. We got clarinet. We've got banjo, and piano, accordion, and obviously a caller as well. So there's 10 of us when we go out. Sometimes we're trying to fit on a little stage. So we got a real,
this is
sound.
Really with the difference. I love it. Alan Hoskins wants to know: is the Nelson pub still going in Hastings?
Yeah, it's still there. Yeah, still going strong. Yeah, it's right on the corner of the Bourne there. Yeah. There's quite a lot of pubs in Hastings. Yeah, but obviously over the last sort of 15 years, a lot have closed. But there's still 30, 35 pubs. In a very small town, but in the old town especially, there's a big pub thing, and there's live music every Friday, Saturday, Sunday in a lot of pubs. You just walk into a pub and there's music for free. There's folk sessions, there's shanty singers, there's more traditional rock bands. You can get whatever you want really, and all for free. So we're really lucky.
Wonderful. Is the George still there? Carmen is asking this.
The George.
Yeah.
I can't think where that is. I'll put my mind to that one.
Now, okay, you're a musician and you play in a ceilidh band, but you're also a poet.
I do a little bit of poetry, but
would you like to share a bit of your poetry with us?
Oh, yeah. Okay. I didn't really. I mean, before I started the Bardic grade, I didn't really write a lot, and then I started writing a little bit of poetry. So, and I've been on a couple of the Druid Gorseds over the years, and I always like to sort of stand up and do something that I steadfod. And I think one year I ended up singing shanties, singing sea shanties. I wouldn't say I'm great at these things, but I do enjoy them. So I can, let me just find something that I'm going to read. All right. Okay. Can you hear me okay? Is this
perfect? Yeah.
It's all working okay?
Yep.
Okay. So this one's called Circle of Stones. So circle of stones, high on the hill, ancestors calling, link within. Be in the moment, bright circle of light. Radiate healing, the circle of light, walking the land. Steps from the past, gifts to the future. Silence at last. Deep in the rocks, you hear the ancestors call. This circle is turning. It's moving me for the sacred call. Never broken, this link to the past and to the now. The circle of stones which touch the heart as I feel it now. Within, without, between land and sea, between sky, the calling is answered. Peace and stillness now.
It's beautiful. Beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't read my poetry very often, but
oh, well, here's now you've made your maiden voyage.
Yeah.
Oh, that's beautiful. That is beautiful. We're still on pubs here, and before that,
right.
So Jane Rowan says, "Circle of Stones, lovely poem, thank you." Carmen said it was on George Street, the oldest pub in Hastings. It's still there.
The Pump House, yeah.
Pump House, okay.
It's it looks like a really, really old pub, but actually it was built in the 1950s. It looks like it's about 300 or 400 years old. It's all wooden, but apparently it was what they did in the 1950s and 60s. They demolished a lot of houses in Hastings Old Town. They put a road sort of through the middle of the Old Town, and a lot of the houses were just cleared, because they weren't in very good condition. So a lot of the timber and a lot of the bits and pieces were used to build, these houses that look like they're 300-400 years old, but they're actually only 60 or 70 years old. But that pub's one of them. It's a quite nice little pub, actually. It's it's called the Pump House. Yeah.
Okay. Alan says he'll stop, but he used to like the Cinque Port Arms. Is that still there?
Oh, the Cinque Ports is still there. Yeah, that's still there. That's a good little pub as well. Yeah. It's turned into the good pub guide, isn't it?
Often it does. It's there's lots of response to your poem as well.
Yeah. So no, I must admit, if anybody's coming down to Hastings, I would recommend the pubs that I would recommend are the Jenny Lynn's, which is in the High Street, in the Old Town, and then it's the First and Last Out, which is at the top of the High Street, and then there's one called the Dolphin, which is opposite the Fisherman's Huts, which are the black fishermen's huts on the seafront, and they're three really nice pubs, and they all do local beer like Harvey's and Longman beer. And one of the pubs actually brews their own beer as well. So if you're a beer drinker, that's the place to go. Yeah.
Unfortunately, I'm not. So it's the Dolphin, the Jenny Lynn, and then last in, first out, or first in, last out?
First in, last out. Yeah. They're the ones to look for. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. You can have a really good pub crawl in Hastings if you're into that sort of thing.
Well, Jane Rowan says the Druid Good Pub Guide of Hastings, Wassail.
Wassail, definitely, but so I don't know, what else can we talk about then? What else do you want?
I remember, well, I suppose we met, we were sharing a B&B, yourself and Gabby.
That's right.
We had breakfast together when I don't know, was it the winter gathering or was it no, it was the winter gathering before Howard passed, actually.
That's right. I remember.
But we had already done the celebrancy course in that weekend in Earth Spirit.
Yeah, that's right.
And so you and Gabby, you are celebrants, yes?
Yeah, we are. Yeah.
So
in our spare time. Sorry?
In your spare time, yes.
Yeah.
So just talk a little bit about that. Now, you're also a chaplain, or you do chaplaincy work as well. So this is again more of your service work as Druids. So just share a little bit about that.
Well, basically, the celebrancy work sort of started because I ran this, I still do, we haven't done it for a little while, but this Wheel of the Year group, shamanic group, that, people have been coming to, some people have been coming to for over 20 years. And one lady was diagnosed with terminal cancer, and she said to me and Gabby, we want you to do the funeral, so and obviously we were used to doing ritual and standing up in front of people, and but this was a little bit new to us. This was probably about 15 years ago. So I did for want of a better word, I did a shamanic ceremony in the local crematorium, and we even put the chairs in a circle. They were freaking out. They were thought, "Wow, what's happening?" And I did she wanted us. She wanted a drumming, prayers, little chants and things like that. And obviously, we just made what she wanted really happen. And it's sort of from there we ended up doing. Other people would come to us and say, we hear you do ceremonies. And we said, yeah. So we've, over the years, we've done funerals and weddings for people. It's more, I mean, for me anyway, it's more word of mouth. It's just sort of people who come and ask me. I don't advertise. Gabby put it out more. She's got a website, and so that still happens, but and then obviously the chaplaincy work. I think somebody wanted to talk to a druid person, like a druid in the local hospital, because there was a patient in the hospital who was a pagan or was a druid, and they wanted like a visit from somebody who could talk to them on their level, and about their spiritual path, and maybe help to arrange a funeral for them. And so for some reason, I can't remember now, we got a call about it. We went up to the hospital and we spoke to the person and we helped them. And then the vicar who heads up the chaplaincy team, he said, would you like to be part of the team? And so we said, yeah. So I suppose it was about 7 or 8 years ago. But now we only really connect if somebody comes in who's a pagan or a druid, and they ask for a pagan or druid visit, then they would give us a call and we would pop up. There is volunteers who just go in and go round the wards and talk to patients. We did do that at the beginning, but obviously because of work and everything else, we don't really have time. So now we're like a link. We're a link if anybody needs a druid or a pagan visit. And obviously if we can't help, we would signpost on to somebody else. But it's a real privilege to be able to help people, especially if we're linked to the local hospice as well, and just to give people some comfort and just to talk on their level. And another lady we helped in the hospice, and she just wanted to make a little altar in the corner of her room, and the nurses didn't know what to do, and we got a call, and we went up and said, right, okay, let's do this, and we made a little altar, and we had a little ceremony with her, and she was made up with it. And then when she passed, we done the ceremony for her funeral. It was amazing, absolutely amazing, and so it's just a real honor and a privilege to be of service, and hopefully, as my day job gets less, maybe as I get a little bit older, I can do more of that work. I think I'll always be doing some sort of service work, whether it's the hospital work or the chaplaincy or the celebrancy work, or running groups, or just signposting people to where they need to go, or it's just nice to be of service that way. So yeah, so that's that. Yeah.
That's wonderful. Stephanie says it's a lovely and much needed service you're providing, and I couldn't agree with you more, Stephanie. Absolutely.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah.
Is there an unofficial list of celebrants? I only know of Cat Travel. David, there are many members in the order who are celebrants.
Yeah, there is. There was something on the website, wasn't there? There was a list.
There's a list of them on the website, but that's not comprehensive. There are many who are doing it anyway.
Yeah, most people. I mean, a lot of people who've, especially people who've entered the Druid grade or finished the course. People just naturally would maybe say, "Oh, you're a Druid, or could you do a hand fasting or whatever?" And a lot of people will say, "Yeah, I can do that." So.
You don't have to be a Druid in the Druid grade to be a celebrant either.
Oh no.
And then River Jones, she does a training in celebrants, and she's also a member of the order, and that came from that weekend we did in 2014.
That's right.
When we got together around celebrancy. So I suppose some seeds were sown there. So
that was amazing.
on the website you find details about that. So but not just that. Now you and Gabby have been doing the ceremonies for the gatherings. Not the online ones. What my daughter would say, the in real ones. You started 2018? Was that when you did one?
I think 2018. Yeah, we did the
2019. Okay, and then starting now 2022.
Yeah. I think this is our sort of because we had a couple of years break. I think this is our third year now. Yeah, it was a real privilege and a real honor to be asked. Sitting amongst all these esteemed Druids. And Dave the Bard sidled up to me and Gabby and said, "We need somebody to do this ceremony for the Chalice Well in December. Would you be interested?" And straight away I went, yeah. And Gabby went, no. And it was really funny. And we went outside, and because it was a tea break or something happened, and we had a chat about it. And I said to Gabby, "Oh, this is just an amazing opportunity. Just to be asked is, wow." And so we definitely agreed to do it. And so we've had the privilege and the honor to be able to do that. And this year we're doing the tour on the Saturday, and we're also doing the Avebury ceremony on the Sunday morning. Yeah, the two buses go off. So I've been putting that together over the last couple of months, and we're pretty much there now. We've got all the parts allocated out to people. I just wanted to say, if anybody's on here tonight that hasn't contacted me, that has got a part, please contact me. But anyway, so yeah. But I really look. I mean, it's a little bit nerve-wracking and a little bit stressful. Like, you're putting together a thing, and it's. But when you're standing on the tour and the ceremony's in full flow, it's just an amazing privilege to be able to, facilitate that, and hold the energy as well. But because it's such an amazing space to work in, and we've had some great feedback from people over the years, and so really looking forward to it. Sort of in a week and a bit, we'll be there. So
Marjolein van Noordende is looking forward to meeting you at the ceremony. I don't know if she's one of the participants at the. She lives in the Netherlands.
Oh,
I don't know.
Maybe. Yeah.
Forward to meeting you then. Yeah. So it's and the I found that the ceremonies, either Chalice-well or on the tour, I've been to Avery and Stonehenge. I won't be at Avery and Stonehenge this time. I'm allowing other people to go instead, and because you have to get up at 3:15 and the bus leaves at 4:15 in the morning. I've done that so many years.
It's an early start.
Yeah, because I'm going to be doing stuff on the Sunday afterwards. But to have those ceremonies are just magical, with so many druids. Sometimes it's 200, maybe 250 on a normal gathering, and then this time it'll be more because we have more for this particular one. And watching, what I love is people start walking from Glastonbury down the streets in their robes, heading off up the Tor, and you're watching, these robed people going up. It's just absolutely magical. And then you can can be quite windy up there.
Yeah.
But it's just magical. And then you go through the archway on St. Michael's Tower, and there'll be two under it, yes, and there's a welcome. There might be drumming, and it's just absolutely beautiful.
Yeah.
One of the first winter gathering I went to, I remember walking from my bed and breakfast, and it was misty. Walking, what is it, 7:30 in the morning towards the chalice, and it's very misty, and then you're watching these cloaked people just come in from side streets heading on. Quite magical, just beautiful.
Just all appearing from everywhere. Yeah.
And not that many people gather. It's just incredible.
It's amazing. I think last time we did the one on the tour, it was quite windy, and then we had a sort of bit of rain coming, and it was just it was like all the elements were coming in. We had we had a bit of sun, so we had the fire and the earth and the water and everybody. It was just people were like it was like everybody was cleansed by this rain that came in, and and I was thinking, and everybody's going, oh, it was great, but it's all really, I mean, the just the feel of it, is just amazing, and so it'd be lovely to see, everybody up there this year after the break. The last couple of years we haven't done it. It's going to be amazing. So so come and say hello if you're there, and I might have a part for you. Maybe. Yeah. We didn't get to talk about Derry.
Okay, let's go back to Derry then. Did you watch Derry Girls? Derry Girls?
I did it at the beginning. I wasn't quite sure because I looked a couple of times. I thought, this is rubbish. But then I got into it, obviously, and because Gabby wanted me to translate more than some of the stuff they come out with. But I watched the last couple of episodes a couple of weeks ago, and it was quite moving, really. About the peace process. And,
I love that.
All the imagery they had, and obviously some of the music that they had. It just brought back sort of memories for me, because it's sort of set around the time that I moved away, around about 1989, early 90s. But I mean, although I haven't lived there for 30 odd years, I still call it home, and I feel when I go back that I'm home. And for all the past stuff that's happened there, I think it's, in some ways, it's sort of made me who I am. Because I mean, I grew up on on one side of the river, so to speak.
Yes.
But as I got older, I thought, oh, this is rubbish, and I made friends from both communities, and it was like music and things like that brought us all together. And it was like we met above all of the stuff that was happening. We were just like a group of lads who used to like enjoy
Hmm.
music, and we all drove scooters at the time. We were all like mods. And it was like that was our spiritual experience, and we learned tolerance, and we learned, not you know to fight about politics and religion and all of that stuff. It was we just rose above it. So it's really great to go back to the city now and see how much has changed, for the good, since the peace process, and how the communities have really come together. And my sister's two boys went to one of the integrated schools.
How was
You
that
know,
for them?
oh, mate, I'm absolutely amazing. Because and it's made them into real, tolerance, and quite knowledgeable young men.
Hmm.
About one of them is that works down in Belfast now, but he's so well rounded, and he's just oh it's like water of a duck's back to him. He just lets go of all that past stuff that and it's like he's really flourished. Yeah. So I think the integrated school has really helped him. I think there should be more. I think there's a couple in the city, but
Hmm.
there was talk about opening some more, but hopefully they will. It's because they don't need to be. They don't need to be separate. They can just. But yeah,
I
yeah, and
think schools that celebrate diversity, like my daughter goes to, well, she's going to be doing her leaving cert in 2 weeks, but
yeah.
she's coming to Glastonbury.
All right, oh,
Yeah.
brilliant,
But
brilliant.
I sent her, she was home educated until she was 14, and then I sent her
Yeah,
to an Irish language school. She didn't have
yeah,
any Irish, but it was the one school, so much diversity,
yeah,
uh, and people from all walks of life. And
yeah,
it's a lovely school. I mean, obviously, no school is perfect, but
yeah.
that was where I wanted her, where diversity could be celebrated. And I
Mm,
think so. It's non-denominational or multi-denominational or whatever, but to
yeah.
have that diversity is very, very important. It
Hmm.
just opens children's, and you can still have a good education. And then, if you want a religious ethos, then you can do that outside the school,
Well,
and
exactly.
you get it from your own home, because
Yeah,
she got
yeah.
the ethos, her family ethos, from her parents. Myself and my
Mm,
husband.
mm,
She didn't need to have that in school,
yeah,
but where that notion of integration or acceptance, and not just tolerance, but acceptance of difference, and actually celebration of it, because there's far more that unites us than divides us. And I'm always interested
yeah.
in, curious about people's backgrounds, and then finding those meeting points. And I've taught in a multicultural third level institution for 27 years, both
Mm,
here in Ireland and in Africa. And
yeah,
you find people talking about their backgrounds, and they're saying, oh my God, we come from completely different cultures. And
mm,
our stories are so similar.
yeah. Exactly. Yeah,
And then you have that wonderful meeting point, and then you can celebrate the difference and the quirks and the idiosyncrasies,
yeah,
and be able to, when you have those points of connection, you're better able to manage the differences.
yeah. Definitely, definitely. I mean, for me, I mean, it was music was my thing when I was growing up,
Yeah,
and I listened to a lot of like Black American music, R&B, soul, 60s stuff, and then I listened to a lot of the ska Jamaican music,
yeah,
um, and back then, there was quite a lot of racism around, and the whole music scene that I got into was all around this integration of black and white, and the whole two-tone thing, and and then people come together. It doesn't matter what their background or what their religion or this, that, or the other. and they come together to enjoy the music. And then, as you say, they realize that they've all got stories and they're all the same, and they don't need to be, calling each other this, that, and the other, or segregating each other, because we all just want to live in peace and
That's
harmony and balance at the end of the day, and to help each other. And
Mhm.
and that's, I mean, for me, moving over to England from Ireland in the sort of late 80s, early 90s, it was a real culture shock, because
You will imagine.
it's been, England even back then was such a diverse place, and it was great. It was great, meeting people from different countries, different religions, and I think it's helped me with my Druidry as well. To talking to friends who are Muslim or Sikh or Hindu, and seeing that their path and what they do. And nowadays, I've got to the age where I'll talk openly about my Druidry to whoever will
Yeah,
want
yeah.
to listen, and I find people are fascinated by the Druid path,
Mhm.
and fascinated by people's stories. And yeah, so and I've taken that back to Ireland as well. I mean, I've come out to my family as
How
a
did that
Druid.
go?
It went okay, actually. It wasn't too bad. For me, I mean, when you're younger, you're a bit more sort of self-conscious about it all, and oh, I'm not going to say anything. But I've got to that age now where I just don't care anymore. I just
Yeah,
think.
yeah.
So I said to my sister, I said, because I used to talk about going down to Glastonbury and going over to the Long Man and this, that, and the
Mm.
other. So I just said, "Oh, I'm Druid," and we had a big, long conversation about it. And I think she was uh, quite interested, because I think in Derry as well, there's been there's a big, there's a looking back, Oak Grove,
That's right.
where it gets its name from. I mean, I'm sure there's Donegal. I mean,
Yeah.
there's a big Druid, you know, tradition in the land. You can feel it in the landscape. When you walk on the landscape, and so I was being accepted, and saying to my dad, "I'm I'm a Druid," because he's very much Catholic. He goes to
Mhm.
mass, and and when I told him, me and Gabby got married, and in the registry office, he was like, you know, and but he's interested in the Druid thing. He just called a cult, but there's that culture involved, and
Yeah,
but they do listen, and which is great. So it sort of makes my heart sing when I can talk openly about myself and who I
brilliant.
am.
Yeah.
And I think that's important for everybody, to talk about yourself and who you are, and to be yourself. It's yeah, yeah. So it's nice to go home and touch base. And I've bought a few Derry Girls fridge magnets.
Oh, have
Yeah,
you?
yeah, yeah. Because people say to me, I mean, "Oh, you're from Derry, and what do you think of Derry Girls?" But obviously, I'm sort of sad now it's finished, because I was just starting to get into it.
I
Yeah.
really, really, I mean, it was Paul Corcoran had said Derry Girls is great. I
Oh,
thought,
Paul. Yeah,
nah, I don't know if I want to watch that. And then I did, and I thought, oh, I want to watch the second one. And then I was just, I didn't
yeah,
know it was on. So
yeah,
I could see comments on it, and I binge watched the last series. I just loved it. The
yeah.
character.
It sort of got better and better, really. And some of the words they use, you just think, "Oh, I haven't heard that for years."
And I
And
just saw that one of the actors, she's I can't remember what her name is. I don't know what
yeah.
her character is. She's the one with the English cousin.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. The
Um,
black curly haired one. Yeah, I don't know
yeah,
her
but
name. Yeah,
she's actually doing
yeah.
a documentary on her dairy.
All right, all
Yeah,
right. Yeah.
that's coming out and maybe over the summer.
Oh,
So
brilliant.
she's actually talking about her dairy, which will be really, really interesting.
Yeah,
So
yeah. Because it's a wonderful city. I mean, I always say to people, go and visit, because the history there, and just walk around the walls. And obviously, if you go to Derry, you have to go down into Donegal as well,
I know.
because it's a given.
Yeah.
But I just love it. I mean, if I could be somewhere else, I mean, I would just be there in
We
Donegal,
do. Okay.
up
In Donegal,
Green
yeah.
up at Green and Fort.
We were there on the retreat that we had, the Bureau retreat.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to go, but
We ended. Our last bit was on in the Green On.
yeah,
And
lovely.
it was lovely. And then I went home via Derry. That's right. Because
Yeah,
I wouldn't normally go to Donegal via Derry. I just cut off if I'm going to, let's say,
Yeah.
Falcarra or near where we were in the arts estate. But yes,
Yeah.
just beautiful,
Yeah.
absolutely magical landscape.
Oh,
So-
I love Donegal. My mum was from Donegal, so I've got a real connection there. And we nearly bought a house there a few years back because my sister had a house there, and she said, "Oh, if you want," I think she secretly wanted me to move back, and she said, "Well, if you want, we could sell it to you
Okay.
in Buncrana."
Yeah.
I said, "Yeah, I can't really afford that, but
Yeah,
maybe if you give it to us a gift." But yeah, we used to go to the Green and Fort on school trips when I was in primary school. So I was only about 7 or 8. We would go there, but we'd all take a picnic and we'd sit and we'd have a picnic. So it's a real power spot for me.
Oh,
If people don't know it, they need to, maybe we'll put a link up so they can see where it is.
just it's Green On. I'll just put it in there. Sorry. Yeah. Green on Olioch is what it is in Irish, and that'll go.
That's
But if you Google that, you'll find it.
Yeah. Or if you put in, if you put in Donegal, like tourist information, it'll probably be quite high in the tourist information. But it's such a lovely spot, and looking out over the Inishowen Peninsula, down towards, was it the Loch Swilly?
That's right. Yes.
Oh, it's lovely, lovely spot. But yeah.
So we're coming to the end of our chat, and there's loads of questions we didn't get to touch at all. So which is always a good sign. I always end this final question is: what is your favorite season of the year, and what is your favorite festival time? Following the wheel of the year.
Okay. Well, I suppose my favorite season is around sort of Beltane. That sort of real spark and growth in the earth, and new life springing up everywhere, and just that. It's like quite an exciting time. Like, wow, summer's coming. Wow, brilliant. And obviously, because of the festival we do, the Jack and the Green and the Beltane stuff. But I do like the light half of the year. I like the light evenings. It's lovely to come home from work in the light, and so yeah, that's probably my sort of favorite festival. I've watched a few firesides now, and I'm going to say Samhain. Another vote for Samhain, but it's just that link with the ancestors, and I don't know. For me, it's it's a time where if I'm up at the Longman with Dave and Kerry and Derrida people, if we're doing a ritual up there, I just feel so at peace. Sometimes I could think, well, if I fall down now and expire, I would be at peace. I'd be happy with what I've achieved in my life. And it's, for me, it's a real peaceful time, and with that veil being so thin and that connection with the ancestors. I mean, as I said earlier, I lost my mum when I was 16, and we were really close, and we still are. But that time of Samhain is like real time of the year when we really touch base with each other. But yeah, it's such a magical time, and so Samhain would get my vote.
I like, so actually I like them all, but yes, I really get known as well. But just something you said there before we finish, you said that when you at Samhain, when you're at the Long Man, and you say that if you had to die now, you're ready. And I think that is a wonderful place to be at. And you're young, you know, to be able to say that. Well, you're going to be here till you're 100, so yes, you're young.
Yeah.
But to be able to say that, and I think something about the Gwers, that journey, can help us prepare so that if we had to go today, that we could. We may not want to, but that we are ready. I think that is such an important place to have reached, and you know, well done.
Yeah, it's that space. I mean, we could talk more, but I mean, over the years, I've done lots of healing work, lots of self work. You know, trained in Reiki and drum healing and esoteric healing and all sorts of things. But obviously, that's all doing work on yourself. And I've done a lot of work on myself over the years, and you know, and I'm thinking, you know, I've come to the point now, and you know, when I'm standing there at Samhain, I really think, you know, if it's my time, then so may it be. You know, not that I want it to be, but because we go down to the pub afterwards and have a beer.
Okay.
But
later on, then let's have a last pint.
Absolutely. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But but I mean, it's a comforting place to be. You know, not to fear the inevitable, and it's also a good place to be when you're sitting with people who are about to take that journey. You know, whether it's in the hospital or as a celebrant, or you know, just as a druid or just as a person, if you know, if a friend, you know, we've all known people who've been diagnosed with terminal illness, and you can really make them feel, you know, listen to, and hopefully help them on their journey, you know. So
because you can be with them and you're not frightened. You're not afraid of death.
Yeah, and it's the way you say it, and it's the way you have that conversation, and they think, blimey, you know, I'm not saying that, you know, I wouldn't be afraid, but you know, it's really nice to be able to come to somebody and say, you know, and help them across when the time comes, you know, and so they don't have to be by themselves, and they can be listened to and honored. Yeah,
I know when in my nursing days, you know, I've been with people holding their hands while they were dying. We weren't in those days. This is now way into the last century, where patients weren't told that they had cancer or they were going to die.
Yeah,
unless they were considered very well educated, because I think it was an assumption that educated people were able to deal with death in a better way. So often you'd have relatives saying, I don't want the patient to know, or the patient saying, I don't want the relatives to know, and you didn't talk. And as a student nurse, you couldn't talk. So a lot of it was through silently holding somebody's hand. And I'm just glad now, you know, when Howard had his cancer, we were talking about it openly. And it's just so much easier to be able to be with somebody where it can be spoken of. So I think we've moved on a little bit in terms of sharing information with people, and that there isn't that death taboo within the health service. I mean, I think it's hard for medics when their job is about saving lives, that they're not able to make that transition to actually that's no longer applicable. Now let's help in the transition to the other side.
Yeah,
which I think now we're doing much better with hospice care and everything else.
So. Oh, definitely, yeah, and all the pastoral care, and you know, the amount of the people who go in and volunteer, and it's come a long way, which is great, you know, and it you know, and it just helps people to make that transition, and I think it makes that transition a lot easier for the soul, you know, from this world to the other world, or wherever people believe they go to. So it's a real honor to be able to stand in your truth and say, yeah,
Great. Well, Paddy, it's been a joy talking to you. We've gone over our time. And Carmen, do you think at Bealtaine the veil is thin too? It is. They say Bealtaine, the summer solstice, and Samhain are the 3 times in the year when the veil is thinnest. So, and Alan says, you're Hastings, buddy. Wonderful conversation. Thanks and best wishes to you both. Samhain every time. Okay.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. You have to keep a little tally now who says what.
I haven't. It's a pity, but I think the majority say Samhain for some reason. Yeah.
Yeah, I think. Well, it's just one of those festivals, that people really tap into. I think because of the elements of the ancestors and people that have gone, and our own mortality, So well, thank you very much, Eimear. It's been a
absolute joy talking to you. So I will send you backstage. I'll send you through the veil.
Okay.
Because we can look at the comments that there were so many comments. We don't get to read all of them, so we can look, or I don't get to comment on them during the chat. Maybe we can look at them afterwards. So
okay.
So you can say goodbye to everybody, and then.
Okay. Goodbye, everybody. Thanks very much for listening in, and maybe see some of you down in Glastonbury. And if you're there, come and say hello. Yeah.
Brilliant.
And for everybody else, happy studying. Enjoy the gwers. And take care.
Okay. So thank you all for joining us this evening, and just looking at your comments that you too enjoyed listening to Paddy, a wonderful guest as well. I won't be here this time next week because I will be in Glastonbury getting ready for our summer gathering. So, but I will be here in 2 weeks, which will be the 9th of June, with another guest. In the meantime, if I may see you in Glastonbury, if not, be well in the meantime. And we're coming into June. I can't believe it that this year so far has just flown. Anyway, I look forward to seeing you in 2 weeks' time. And also we'll be having our online solstice ceremony on the 18th of June. So until then, slán go fóill.